It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
Hi, my name's Jackson Jones. What you're about to witness is a bit of a mockumentary about the absurdist play Mr. Melancholy and four people just trying to give it a crack and reimagine the magic by Matt Cameron. And, without further ado, I hope you enjoy. Oh, Mr. Melancholy. We were directing the second scene of the absurdist play, Mr. Melancholy. Come on, Pestilence. I know you can do it. Come on, the script is right down there. You can read it and no one will even notice. It's our shot, I promise. Oh, come on, man. Just say it. If you don't, I'm gonna say your lines for you. And you know I'll do it in a dumb voice. Fine then. Absurd theater is a genre of theatrical drama that bloomed in the 1950s and 60s. These forms of plays dealt with the theoretical analysis of human existence and finding a purpose in life, as well as accepting the redundancy of it. The play, Mr. Melancholy, was an absurdist play by, Matt Cameron that tells the story of three hermits named Ollie, Margot, and Enzo.
That's not fair!
These three hermits resided in a lighthouse that appeared to have no light, which was all a part of the absurdist idea. And due to this, ships were often misguided into wrecking themselves on these shores of which the hermits lived. This sent the now four protagonists into a constant cycle of asking questions without answers, creating solutions without problems, and overall, they just went nowhere until Dolores eventually ended up leaving the crew, and the lighthouse finally had its light replaced. Mr. Melancholy dealt with themes such as going through change, and that was reflected by those events. The scene that we selected was the second scene. This scene included the two main characters, Margot and Enzo. In this scene, those two were found to be arguing over a suitcase as to whether to open it or not. This argument consisted of the two bickering over the contents of the suitcase, whether a clown was in there or not, which didn't ever tend to reach a conclusion as they constantly got distracted by minuscule things such as Enzo's milk mustache and Margot organizing boxes.
Hey, boss.
Our version contained many alterations from the original material. First of all, rather than taking place on the beach, our version took place in an abandoned wasteland with an overall diluted color palette. This helped make the setting feel more barren and deserted, as it would seem that our protagonist could be the last person on the planet. The actual stage contained a small table that would be placed in the center stage. This was required as Volume would enter the stage with a suitcase, and he really needed somewhere to put it as he argued with himself as Margot and Enzo. One thing to make note about Volume was that his name was never to be mentioned. He was just being called that at the moment to make his mentioning easier. Rorschach was really getting ticked off with us just calling him the guy with two voices. Margot and Enzo were the main attention of this play. For example, considering that Margot was represented by the white side of the mask, when her dialogue was spoken, Volume would turn his head to the left to make the white side of the mask the only side visible to the audience. Alongside this, each of the two characters would have their own unique voice in order to make their contrast more evident. As for other pieces of clothing, Volume he sported a simple white buttoned shirt with one sleeve folded and pristine on the same side as the white side of the mask, and on the other side was a torn, burnt sleeve with holes in it, on the same side as the dark grey side of the mask. He would be wearing black suit pants and elevator shoes that wouldn't be seen out of place with your average office worker or Rorschach. As with all plays, our production included a selection of dramatic elements. These included voice, which was mainly used in different pitches and tones in order to differentiate the two characters as they were played by one actor. Another element included was the use of gestures and movement. For example, Margot would stand tall as an overseeing presence of order, as opposed to Enzo, who would be seen with a hunched back and a frantic demeanor. The final dramatic convention in play would be place. This would be displayed through the background of the play, which represented a barren wasteland and death. And another element that played a central role in our performance was focus. With only one thespian, a large amount of energy was needed in order to portray two characters in the same scene. This also meant that the main actor would need to memorize a larger amount of dialogue and be able to switch between each character with ease. Another element that was utilized was the use of relationship. This aspect was used to form a connection between Margot and Enzo as friends, no matter how flirtatious Enzo became.
Hey guys, it's your boy Filthy Frank here.
Donning himself a two-sided mask and a severe case of split personality disorder, Volume had lost himself in the voices in his head and is merely a ghost of his former self. Enzo was a happy-go-lucky man-child who failed to comprehend the situations he found himself in. This led to him becoming a prominent nuisance to other characters within the scenes that he resided in. Margot was a blatant contrast, to say the least, into everything Enzo stood for. Margot spends most of her time either organizing the mess made by the other characters or by resolving their misguided antics.
We can't wait until that moment when we come together and we stop being 9 guys and we turn into one band and we walk onto the stage, right? Plane.
The plane.
Plane. Plane. Bug.
Bugs.
Bugs. Plane.
Plane. Bug.
Booger.
Alongside this, a plethora of elements found in the absurd theater were utilized by us. One main aspect would be that the questions raised during the play would never be answered. Two main characters would constantly bicker with each other without resolving the issue or reaching an agreement. These ranged from the two other characters playing rock, paper, scissors with each other, or the two walking back and forth across the stage. Well, one. You know what I mean. The final absurd element included was symbolism, which included the crow in the background, which represented death alongside the mask that represented the two characters. Is that it? Did that work? Wait a minute, let me just check. Because I swear to God, if it didn't, I'm going to kill myself. Okay, there we go. It's good! We done did it! We done did it, my dudes. And that is the final time I'm doing that. Oh. Is it? Stop recording. My name is Pestilence, and thank you for listening. Or watching. I don't know how this works. I mean, it has me voicing over it. This would be much easier if you decided to freaking talk, Pestilence. Jesus Christ.
Well, in conclusion, Mr. Melancholy was an absurdist play by Matt Cameron. Absurd plays bloomed in the 1950s and 60s, and have various elements such as asking questions without answers, pointless games and actions, and scenes that don't really connect with each other. And, well, of course, our attempt had a plethora of those, and a few dramatic elements to go in with it as well. Well, I hope you have enjoyed my presentation. Thanks for watching. I'll give you over to Pyro.